When did you learn to finally stand up for yourself? When my mother stood up to make an announcement 6 months before my wedding, I thought she was just going to say something supportive. Instead, she smiled, clapped her hands together, and said she'd be wearing white to the ceremony. I thought she was kidding, but she wasn't. I told her gently that it made me uncomfortable, and that it was traditionally the bride's color. Her face fell. Then came the tears. Big dramatic ones. She said I was trying to make her feel old and irrelevant, that this wedding wasn't just mine but ours, and she wanted to feel special too. And just like that, I gave in. I remember James giving me this look like, why are you letting her steamroll you already? But I just couldn't handle her crying like that. I felt guilty, like I'd already ruined something. That moment was the start of something I didn't see coming. Over the next few months, my mom turned every part of the wedding into her own personal stage. She scheduled cosmetic procedures, lip fillers, eye lift, a whole skin peel, right when we were supposed to meet with vendors. Every time I tried to make progress, she'd say she needed to recover, and could we please move things around? I kept adjusting everything. Every time I did it, I told myself I was being accommodating, but it was more like I was being trained. At my bridal shower, she showed up in a glittery, off-the-shoulder white dress and heels so high she needed help walking across the room. While I was thanking everyone for coming, she stood up and interrupted with a long story about her own wedding, how beautiful she was, how everyone couldn't stop looking at her. People laughed politely while I felt invisible. Afterward, I went to the bathroom and cried. Melissa, my best friend and maid of honor, told me I needed to say something to her, but I kept making excuses. Then I started noticing changes to the wedding details. The flower colors were different. The centerpiece designs weren't what I picked. The wedding planner said my mom had made a few adjustments to better fit her dress, not mine. I called my mom and tried to explain that this was my vision, but she said, "Sweetheart, don't be so rigid. You'll thank me later when everything looks coordinated." James was getting more and more frustrated. He didn't like how much control she had. He kept telling me this wasn't just about the wedding, it was about our future. But every time I tried to push back, she'd cry or get passive aggressive. I'd hang up the phone feeling like the bad guy. Then one day Aunt Carol pulled me aside after brunch and said, "You know your mother ruined my wedding too, right?" I had no idea. She told me about how my mom spread rumors about her being pregnant before marriage and wore a white dress without asking. I felt sick, but for reason, I kept trying to make peace. Then came the night before the wedding. I got home from the rehearsal dinner and my dress was gone. My custom designed, handmade, perfect wedding dress vanished. I panicked and began calling everyone. That's when Melissa remembered my mom had driven herself home early from the rehearsal dinner. She decided to swing by my mom's place to check. I was still calling people when she called me. "It's here. Your mom's car is in the driveway and the trunk's open. I'm looking at your dress." I drove to her house in my pajamas right away. The dress was there, where Melissa said. It had been altered, hemmed shorter, refitted. I lost it. I burst through the front door and asked what she thought she was doing. She didn't even flinch. She smiled and said she was planning to wear it for her grand entrance as mother of the bride. She said it looked better on her than on me. I thought I misheard her. My voice cracked. That was my wedding dress. And she looked at me like, so what? Then she tried to demonstrate how the new fit worked and tore the sleeve. She gasped. I gasped. Then she looked at me and said, "This wouldn't have happened if you weren't pulling so hard." I just stood there, frozen. My chest felt tight and I couldn't think straight. I walked out, sat in my car and cried. Melissa came to get me. James showed up too. I told them everything. I kept saying, "I don't know what to do." James said, "You do. You've just never done it before." So I did. I called her and told her she wasn't welcome at the wedding. She lost it, screamed, tried to guilt trip me, cried on the phone, said I was cruel. She called family members and said I was unstable, but I didn't budge. When the day came, she wasn't there, and the wedding was perfect. Not because everything went right, but because I got to enjoy it. I got to be with James and laugh and cry and dance until I couldn't feel my feet. I wore a backup dress that didn't quite fit, but it didn't matter. I kissed my husband under twinkle lights and felt like I belonged to myself again. Then we left the venue and got in the car. James was driving us to the hotel. It was late. The windows were down. I was leaning my head on his shoulder, but he looked in the rearview mirror and said quietly, "Liv, I think your mom is following us." And there she was, in her car, still in that dress. I couldn't tell you what my mom did next year. The full story is on my channel and linked below.